Hello, everyone. As you are logging into the webinar, if you could possibly just write in the chat where you are interning and even where you're logging in from. So, for example, I'm Juliet. I'm the main career catalyst intern, and I'm in our Portland office today. So if you could just sign in with the chat so we know who's here. So tomorrow is actually our last in-person event of the program. So if you haven't already signed up, we are going to be at the Portland Sea Dogs game tomorrow. So make sure you claim your ticket. And yeah, we'll be there tomorrow celebrating the end of summer. And please also, if you haven't, complete our post-program survey. Three respondents will win a $100 gift card. So it's really important for us to get your feedback so we know what changes we may have to make for next coming summers and just how you enjoyed our program. So we're going to get started in a couple seconds here. And again, for those of you just joining, please write where you're interning in the chat. Alrighty. I think more people will probably still filter in, but we can go ahead and kind of get started. So welcome to our very last Main Career Catalyst webinar of summer 2024. If you guys don't know me, I'm Juliet. I'm the Main Career Catalyst intern. So all of you interns get my weekly newsletter every week. And today we're going to talk about leveraging your internship to full time. So I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. If each of you could just introduce yourselves and just describe your current role at your current company. Maddie, do you want to start?
Sure thing. Hello, everybody. My name is Maddie Stevens. I work for Barry Dunn. I'm an HR generalist here in our Portland office. My day-to-day, as an HR generalist, primarily focus on onboarding, welcoming all the new hires, interns, and also our performance system and helping out with goal setting and implementing that. Happy to be here.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Mina Breer. I work at LL Bean on our talent acquisition team, and I am an HR coordinator and DEI coordinator. So I kind of straddle both the HR talent acquisition team as well as our diversity, equity, and inclusion team. In my role, I do something a little bit similar to Maddie. I help with our onboarding of new employees. Then I also help with a few of our DEI programs and learning and development programs. And then our internship program is a huge part of my role as well. And then I do as well as some sourcing and recruiting for our recruiters as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Merrill. I work for Martins Point Healthcare as a human resources specialist. Similar to everyone else here, I do onboarding and orientation for our organization, as well as manage and run our HR service center, which is essentially whenever employees have HR-related questions, they can reach out to me either via phone or email, and I find answers for them. And I also work a little bit on workforce development, working on finding programs for our employees so that they can enhance their experience here and get further within their career. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So basically, we asked you three to be here today because you have all been in our position as interns. And I know a lot of the interns here are at different points of their college career, but any kind of advice is always helpful as we're going to all be soon to be grads. So I was wondering if each of you could kind of describe your internship experience or experiences if you had multiple and just how your internship experience may have influenced some of the career decisions you've made to get to where you are today, or maybe veered you in a different direction. So, yeah, if one of you wants to start, maybe Lauren, do you want to start?
Sure. So I started here at Martins Point as a human resources intern right after I graduated from college. So I was in the unique situation where I didn't have a job. I mean, an internship is a job, but I didn't have a full-time job lined up right out of college. I had an internship instead. So I think my approach to my internship was a little bit different than many of you who may be returning to school post internship. So primarily I worked in talent acquisition and at previous to the internship, I was like, I kind of know I want to be in HR, but I didn't know where. And I thought maybe comp and benefits would be where I ended up. But I really fell in love with talent acquisition through the internship. So I think that that's a really major way that it influenced my career path.
I can go. So I was also our HR intern, but we kind of describe our HR talent intern as like the cruise director. So they help a lot with our intern program as well and kind of organizing and coordinating all of those events and just helping the interns throughout the summer. So that was one thing that I did. I always knew that I wanted to be in HR. Similar to Lauren, I didn't really know where in HR. I think I'm still kind of trying to figure that out a little bit. But as an intern, I was really helping the talent team, and we have both talent and then we have peak hiring for all of our seasonal work, which is a little bit different than other companies because we hire 2,000 seasonal employees every year for peak. So after my internship, I was also graduated. COVID kind of messed everything up. So I was graduated after my internship, and then I was in a temp role for a while. And in that temp role, I worked with our peak team. So a lot of it is working with our seasonal hires and onboarding them. And something I really enjoyed that work, but something that I realized was that I wanted to have more of a connection with a lot of the other employees that I was helping to onboard. So since they're seasonal, they're only here for a couple of months. We have a lot of seasonal returners, so they've been coming back year after year, but they're still not full-time employees. So I really wanted to make more connections with full-time employees within the company. So that's something that kind of geared me towards talent versus working on our peak team. So then I went back to talent after that temp assignment. And then in my new role, I've found that just like in HR, I can do so many different things, which I'm really grateful for, and kind of bouncing around to different teams, which I love. I definitely am still leveraging my talents and my skills to continue my career path, but I think I've also learned that I don't love recruiting as much as I thought I might. I think it's really hard because I do take like personal relationships so seriously that I get a little bit too attached to people, even though I'm not making the final hiring decision. It's just something that I found that wasn't super healthy for just like myself and being in those positions. So I kind of geared a little bit away from that, and I do more sourcing for our recruiters, and I just do more of the onboarding and hiring into our system versus having those interviews and conversations with them and then having to deliver both good and bad news, which good news is always great, but bad news can be hard for everyone. Yeah.
And I had a slightly different career path, as in I have not interned for Barry Dunn. My internships were with other organizations, but they certainly guided my way to where I am now. I've had a few different internship experiences. I did an unpaid internship where I got school credit went to University of Southern Maine, did an internship with their marketing department. I was a business administration major or focusing on marketing and thought that was the direction I wanted to go into. And then internships definitely guided my path more towards human resources. Second internship I got, the first paid internship I had was for Geiger, who is based in Lewiston. I was a sales assistant, so kind of working on customer service, communication skills, And I also had an internship with Live and Work in Maine and also Educate Maine. So the best part of that internship was just leveraging different connections, meeting different employers, similar to what Maine Career Catalyst is doing, providing you connections and opportunities to learn more about employers in Maine and just Maine itself. And then my last internship I had was with Tyler Technologies, and that was an internship focused on human resources, primarily recruiting, but it just kind of opened me up to the experience of human resources, which was great. I ended up graduating from USM in 2020, so like Mina, not the best time to graduate. COVID kind of interrupted things. Ended up getting a job in collections because not too much was hiring at the time. Went back to school, did an MBA, and ended up working full time and went back to Tyler to intern to still continue gaining experience. So leveraging connection to continue work and also utilized them to help provide a connection over here at Barry Dunn, which is where I work now.
Thank you all. It's really interesting to always hear different people's experiences because nobody has the same experience at all, but it's very interesting to see like similarities and differences, especially like where Mina and Lauren, you interned where you currently work. So I guess kind of the next step after your internship was the transition to being a full-time employee. Can you guys maybe touch upon a little bit of your experience in that transitional period from being a full-time student to a full-time employee and just maybe any of the challenges or obstacles you faced and how you overcame those? Mina, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I think one thing that I still struggle with a little bit that I'm learning to be better about is just logging off of work, especially where at the end of my school year, we were completely remote basically. So obviously we had our laptops, we had our phones with our emails. That's kind of the way teachers and professors and everyone else communicated with us. And now I have that for work. So I think just remembering to log off and just everything kind of will come when it needs to come. Like, don't feel like you need to answer every email or every Teams message right when you get it, especially if it's after work hours or your typical work hours. I think that's something just like really enhancing and like my work-life balance, which LL Bean is really great at, but I think I'm probably worse at it than LL Bean just because I'm like, I need to answer my team's message right away. And just learning that like things can wait to the morning and people aren't expecting you to respond within an hour, within 5 minutes of them to get the answer. Because I don't expect that from other people is definitely one thing that was like, oh, okay, like I can kind of let that email sit there for a little bit. It's not nothing terrible is going to happen. Another thing that I learned, which I'm really grateful for, is just that no longer being a student can be kind of a weird transition. For so many 12 years, you were learning from other people, just kind of taking that in, asking for advice. And while I still do that as a newer employee, I definitely found that I need to be more confident in the work that I do and just kind of reassuring myself that I'm here for a reason. They enjoy my skills, they really value me, and that if I wasn't valued as an employee for my work, then I probably wouldn't be here. So just really being confident in yourself and the things that you can do and the things that you are performing on the day-to-day basis and long-term projects is really important. And yeah, those are some of my big challenges, but definitely just work-life balance is really important and just take your time with things. And it's okay to still be learning, but be confident in yourself and the work you're doing.
I'll go. I think for me it was a little different where it wasn't I wasn't interning with the employer that I am with now. When I was a senior in college looking at full-time employment opportunities, I think I was lucky in the way that my supervisor was very transparent from the beginning, letting me know that they didn't have a full-time position available, but that they would be open and supportive of providing a recommendation, helping out as another kind of resource if I needed to talk through a job, if this would be a good role, a good organization for me. So they were really transparent in that way. And then I also leveraged them when I was looking to gain more experience. I saw they had another internship opening, and asked if they would have me back even on a very flexible schedule as I was still working full time for another company. So thinking when it comes to just being transparent, that you are looking for employment. And if they were not the ones who bridged that conversation, starting the conversation yourself and saying, I am interested in working for you. Do you think you have availability? Do you think I would be a good fit for you? And seeing what that looks like with your supervisor or even your talent acquisition or recruiter as well could be a good place to start that conversation.
I have sort of a similar story in that I was very upfront and honest about the fact that I wanted to stay on as a full-time employee. And I just, focused on having conversations with my mentor and then my leader at that point, just saying like, I could really see this working out in the future if you guys have any availability or any opportunity for me to continue on, I would really appreciate that. And I think having those open conversations really gave me leveraged me into being able to continue my employment here. I had my internship ended similar to where all your internships would end, which is the second week of August. And then I continued on. So I never really had a break. I continued on continuing to be the HR intern for Martin's Point until a full-time position became available in December. So definitely, I think one of the biggest obstacles I faced was when you're an intern, at least at Martin's Point, it's mostly project based and you're not responsible for certain things. It's just like you have a project and you're responsible for that project, but there's not, no one's coming to you for answers for things. And so I feel like the shift between full-time employee and intern was like managing how do I feel confident, like you said, Mina, about my work and why I'm here, and be able to answer those questions confidently.
Yeah, thank you. That was really great advice from all three of you. Maddie, I think you touched on a really important point about how some companies just aren't able to offer a full-time position or they just don't have the resources at that time. Do you have any advice or what would you say some initiatives interns today could take to reach out to other companies they might be interested in if they are looking for a job? Because something we try to do at Main Career Catalyst is connect interns with a lot of different main employers, excuse me, not just the ones they're interning at.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I would start off with is just saying like LinkedIn, go on LinkedIn and build your connections. So connect with your team that you are working with now. And that was something that I utilized as I was interviewing with other positions. Once I found out who I was interviewing with, I looked at their profile and was like, oh, they are connected with this person at my company. Which then I reached out and asked if they were able to provide just a reference, send them a message. And so utilizing your connections is huge. It's not too late. If you haven't connected with your team on LinkedIn yet, do that now, and you never know how that can help you in the future. And then that's exactly what I did. And when I was interviewing, one of the people I was interviewing with was connected with my boss at my internship that didn't have a position available for me. She said didn't feel like she remembered why they were connected, but then in turn provided a recommendation on LinkedIn. So that's another alternative you can do as well, asking for recommendations. And you can do that too as you're going through the job process. But even if you're not applying to jobs right now, people can write you reviews and recommendations on LinkedIn that will show on your profile, and you can always use those in the future too. So that could also be something that could help out with utilizing your connections.
Yeah, thank you, Maddie. I think that's really important just because that is a common thing we do see with some internships, especially with smaller companies or just they just don't have the availability at that time. So, Lauren and Mina, you have a little bit of a different situation. Could you kind of expand more on how you maybe approached your supervisor as an intern to tell them that you were still interested in continuing there or becoming a full-time employee there, and any kind of advice you'd have to that kind of like scary conversation that could be really intimidating for some interns? And because you guys do work in HR, in your professional opinion, what kind of skills are you looking for when it comes to that?
Lauren, do you want to go?
I can go first.
Okay, yeah.
So when I approached it, I made sure that when I had that conversation, I believe I had a list of things with me that I really appreciated about Martin's Point as an employer, just to emphasize why I thought it was a good fit moving forward. And I think, I know we mentioned it before, but transparency is key, to really making sure that everyone's on the same page. Because with something as serious as your employment, you want to make sure that everyone has an understanding of what you're expecting, or what you're asking for, I should say. I think that from the perspective of an HR professional, I think that as the communication skills, the transparency, the willingness to have tough conversations, it's really important. It shows your professional, like your business acumen, and showing that is really important as especially a young professional, I think.
Yeah, I very much agree. I think that starting those conversations earlier is better. We always try to tell our interns that if they're graduated or just interested in coming back after graduation, to just have those conversations right away with your manager so they can kind of start planning. Obviously, because everything a lot of the time is financial, so you kind of have to look at the next fiscal year budget, things like that. But I definitely would say talk to not only your manager, but also your recruiter, for just different advice or possible areas that they might know, have open positions or possible temp positions that you can go into, after your internship or after the summer or just in general after you graduate. Just staying connected is really important. I also had that conversation with my manager, where I was an intern and then in a temp position for a little bit. Then as an full-time employee, I did like 3 different transitions, even though it was within the same team. So when I was kind of um, like wanting to fend for myself or just kind of make that conversation and just get hired full time, I came up with, similar to Lauren, just a list of projects that I wanted to work on in the next few months or in a year, something that I was really interested in that took both of the skills that I was showing in my internship and temp position, and turned them into kind of a long-term project or long-term tasks. And it was as big as like larger diversity projects to as small as just trying to figure out a new process or like see that we're doing this process and try to change it a little bit and make it more efficient, more effective. And then something that we always love to look in, for our interns, is just like flexibility to go to different areas possibly, or just see the importance of how important it is to really stay at LL Bean versus in a department that might interest you, because we have a lot of temp positions that you can like travel with the bean boot, which is always a great position, but it's obviously not in an IS position or a marketing position. So it is a little bit different. But you're within the company, so that's always great. So we try to highlight those positions as well if there isn't something that's right there ready for you. And then we've had a lot of amazing cases where interns have graduated and then they just stay in touch with their hiring manager and the recruiter and just update them throughout the year of, hey, I'm taking this course, thought this would really be relevant to something that we worked on in my internship, or just I'm graduating soon, like would love to hear of any possibilities on your team, or if you know of anyone in that department that might be looking for someone, because usually hiring managers and recruiters know way before like you end up putting it out. So we kind of have like a better idea of what might be coming up. So kind of getting a head start on that. Definitely keeping your resume updated as well, just throughout the semester, adding new skills, new activities you did, different events you might have helped with, is always super helpful. But just keeping those conversations flowing all throughout the year.
Yeah, and Maddie, I know you work in HR too. Was there anything Lauren or Mina didn't mention that you look for of like key characteristics or skills of entry level or new hires?
I don't always work in recruiting on the actual hiring process, but I think when I see new hires come in, I think the first indicator that I'm like, they're going to be successful, they're going to do great here, is someone who wants to be involved. And I think it really just comes down to like relationship building. And if you're an introvert, you can still be involved. And there's it's not like you have to get on your hands on all the projects or anything like that. really just like if your organization does, like, we do book socials. So if you're an introvert, maybe just talking about books is where you want to set it. That works. But just trying to meet other people, I think is usually kind of a key indicator for me that they want to get involved, and that will enhance their experience.
Yeah, thank you. I guess kind of moving on to a different track for you guys to just look back and reflect on your past experiences. What do you think the most valuable aspect of your internship experience was, and what kind of advice could you give to interns that may have a couple years left of, do you think having multiple internships is needed or necessary or anything kind of like that?
I'll go first. I think for me, I wish I would have. My first internship, I think, was I was a junior or going into my junior year. I wish I would have tried to get internships even before then. So for those of you who are a freshman or maybe going into your sophomore year, kudos to you. I think it was the best experience I had was just trying out different things, and that's the whole point of an internship is to figure out if this is something you want to do with your career or if you want to go in a different direction. And that was the case for me. It was the marketing degree. Did a marketing club at school. Thought like that was like my future, and tried a few things out: communication, writing, and turns out wasn't the path I wanted to go down. So I think if just get your hands on as many different types of opportunities too, and if you know like if accounting is where you want to be, trying out different organizations as well to figure out the culture fit, or what organization might work best for yourself. So it's a two-way conversation if you will be fit for the job, but also if the job or the organization would be a fit for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I only had one other internship before my LLB internship once I was graduated. 2020 was like right in the middle of that, so that was my junior year, so I didn't work that summer, which was a bummer, but definitely I would recommend going to as many different organizations, types of organizations, small, large, nonprofit, corporate, like just so many different ones to really just get an idea of what you want, because that is also very important. But yeah, that I definitely would recommend just like going to multiple different organizations because it's an internship. So it's your time to really learn and like take in as much as you can. And then you kind of start to figure out what is important to you. And when you figure that out, you can kind of look at different companies, whether that's a really large organization or a really small organization. It really helps you figure out what's important to you as well.
I would also recommend trying out different places. Unfortunately, this was my only internship for my experience in college. And I think that's mostly because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, which I thought meant that you shouldn't apply to an internship you don't know if you want to do. But what I've learned, and probably one of the biggest takeaways from my internship, is that it's really good to learn you don't like something because it's just as valuable as learning that you do. So you can steer your career path in whatever way is best for you. So I think that looking back, I wish I had pursued different things. I'm very grateful for I am right now, but um, just having more experiences, more connections would have been nice.
Yeah, thank you all for the advice and your answers. It's great. Um, Something that we try to do at MCC, one of the whole points of like our program is to kind of show interns from Maine or maybe not from Maine the value of living in Maine and how many opportunities there really are here. Can you guys just tell us why you love working in Maine and why you think it's a good place for young professionals? Because I think there has been some kind of like stereotypes that Maine's not a place for young people, which I is not really the case. And I think breaking that like stereotype is so important so people can just actually see Maine for what it is and that it can be a great place to work. Whoever wants to start.
I can go first. I mean, statistically, we are the oldest state in the nation. So that if you're looking at demographics, certainly not in our favor there. But I mean, Maine is where I grew up. That being said, I'm from rural Maine, so Portland is not that. Um, I think it's great to be able to be close to family, but also like explore the different areas. The cool thing about Maine is that literally you can drive an hour and it's a completely different landscape and terrain than it was the hour previous. So it's really cool to be able to be connected still to my hometown, but also explore different areas of Maine as well.
Yeah, I also grew up here. And then I went away for school and then I came back. Obviously, now I'm in Maine, in the same town that I grew up in as well. So keeping it very, very local. That's definitely something that probably like my sophomore, junior year of college, I was like, I don't know, like jobs in New York City sound really like enticing or like the money's really good there. But it's just I'm not a city girl. So I think after like going visiting my friends. I was like, I love visiting, but I just couldn't imagine working there and living there. For me, just Maine is home, and I think it's the people in Maine that I just love. I can't get away from them. I think it's just like such a different type of feeling when you're going anywhere in Maine, whether it's work, the grocery store, just to get coffee. It's just like everyone has this great like aura through them. So I love that. And then also one thing that I've really found, which I wasn't sure of what it was going to look like when I started my professional career, was that because Maine is so small, larger companies like Maine Health, Barry Dunn, Memic, Unum, LL Bean, they really are so connected in the professional work. So I'm able to still make those connections, whether it's going to just a different conference or something like that, or being part of MCC. I've met so many great people. So I'm really grateful for that. So just kind of making the larger community that seems really big at first, just a lot smaller, and just really remembering like everyone in Maine knows most people. So like somehow people are connected. So I love that and just being really confident in my decision. So I'm very happy that I came back to Maine. And I mean, I work with people who are a fair amount older than me. And I think I learn from them because of their tenure and they learn from me too. So it's a really great balance too of just being able to have those relationships with people that I probably wouldn't have if I was working somewhere in a different state where most of the employees are my age, which I'm thankful for that I can like get that experience from so many great employees who have really kind of grown up with the company as well and created the company, which is fun.
I don't have much more to add. Those are both points that I would touch on too. I've lived in Maine my whole life and I love it here. Vacation land. But I think the other thing is just like there are, as Mina was saying, a lot of opportunities. We have great employers and great, professional employers too. And I mean, the fact that all of your employers here are suggesting that you get involved with Maine Career Catalyst. We care about your development. We care about keeping people in Maine. So I think that's huge. And we are a great place. I mean, in the Portland, Southern Maine area, there's Propel, which is a group for young professionals. So there are other ways outside of your employer that you can still get involved, get connected, and a lot of fun activities to do anywhere in Maine too. So
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I'm planning to stay in Maine, but I went to the same college. Well, I go to the same college as Mina. So, like, I totally understand what you mean about how in that area specifically, our college is in Connecticut. A lot of people veer towards like New York City jobs or going to a bigger city. But since I've been home from college this summer and especially interning for Maine Career Catalyst has really solidified that I would like to stay in Maine as well. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a great place to live. So we do have one question from a participant here that I will ask. Somebody asked, how may have you determined that you would prefer to return or retain your professional career with the company that you were at as opposed to exploring other companies and or career paths? So if any of you want to start or tackle that question.
I think that's a really good question. I think it comes down to feeling. Are you enjoying what you are doing on a day-to-day basis? Do you like the work that you're doing? Do you like the people that you're working with? just breaking it down to the feeling. If you like the culture of the company, then maybe you don't need to explore other opportunities. I mean, why change what you like? I mean, it's great to explore other opportunities, but for me, like when I think about Very Done, I know it's not traditional quite anymore for our generation to stay in one job for their whole career, but this is a place where I could imagine myself staying just because they take care of their employees, they have a great culture. So it's just if you like what you're doing, then I think that's your answer right there.
I'll just go super quick. I just something that Maddie said was, yeah, it's crazy how fast time goes. And I saw a stat on LinkedIn that was like, it's typical to stay in a job for 3 years and then that's it. And I've been at my role for 3 years. So I was thinking like this past year, like, oh no, is it time for me to look? And like, it's just, I love where I am. And I think for me, I really respect my manager. And we have just a great development plan for me, which I'm really grateful for. So not only can I see where I am now and really value the work that I'm doing, but I can also kind of see into the future a little bit with something in different areas that I might want to explore. And what I really like about LL Bean is, yes, I'm in HR now. I could easily go to merchandising if I want to and be in a temp role there. We're not really strict on, okay, you're in HR, like that's all you can do is like your skills are really transferable. So if there's an opportunity to stay in the organization that you really like, but maybe explore a different department and see if that's something that could interest you or is possible at your company, definitely look into that as well. And if you are enjoying your company, then definitely stay. I wouldn't say like just branch out right away. Just give it a chance. Or if you don't like it, then definitely obviously look at other areas. Or if like development is something that you're really into and you're not getting that quite development that you're getting there, either take it upon yourself or just look into other companies that might have a stronger employee development program or just initiatives for them as well.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really similar to both of your answers. The thing that stands out to me was that I really considered the company values if they align with the values, like if the company truly takes the values to heart, or they just something shiny to put on a piece of paper. I think that was something I really considered. I also really like Mina's point about the development. I know here that we encourage people to find alternative career paths within the company if that's what's best for them. So I knew that basically because I wasn't really sure what I want to do long term, that I found a really good company and that I had a good relationship with my manager. And if it wasn't something I wanted to do long term, I could certainly have that conversation because I knew that we value transparency. So I think that that's why I chose to not necessarily look elsewhere.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really good question to whoever asked that. And thank you for your answers. That was really great advice as well. We do have a couple more questions coming in from the participants. So somebody asked, did you guys find it difficult to negotiate your employment package, so benefits and salary as interns? That's a really great question.
I can go first. So, yes, but no at the same time. Obviously, negotiating can be scary in general. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make anyone mad or think about, oh, I'm asking for way too much, or oh no, what if I ask for too little? Then they're just gonna give it to me and I'm not getting valued for what I am and what I bring to the table. Definitely do your research a little bit. Just kind of look at the company, whether they're like a low to median to high paying company in general. And then remembering that your benefits package as a full-time employee also kind of is as well compensation. So it's your large compensation package. So sometimes pay might not be as important to you or where you are in your life. Pay isn't something that's super important to you. And you can kind of take that pay cut versus like work-life balance is really important to you. For us, like being outside is really important for our company and our employees. So we give 3 days to 5 days, depending on your role of just outdoor PTO days. So as long as you're outside, that's great. You have the day off, you're exploring, you're doing whatever you love. So that's something that was really important for me is work-life balance. But also just doing your research, just kind of take in what you knew as an intern and like kind of the skills that you were using, and then kind of the outputs and projects that you did, and really leverage that as well, and kind of bringing to that conversation things that you could be doing, things that you are looking to do, how you could help the team, and just really fend for yourself. And don't second guess yourself. You guys are all, I'm sure, amazing interns and have done amazing for the role of your internship. So really value that and don't take yourself for granted or too short, because you are valued as a person too. So don't cut yourself too short either. But negotiating is hard.
Yeah, I don't have much to add off of that. I do think negotiating for an internship position may be a little more difficult because I think some employers may not have as much flexibility with what they can pay or benefits because that likely is not something that's offered during your internship. So maybe, I mean, it never hurts to ask, but that's probably something that just keep in mind that it may not work out. But when it comes to full-time employment, maybe you have more flexibility there. Again, maybe you can look at your full compensation package, look at the development opportunities that they'll offer you, maybe getting a certification, putting you through tuition reimbursement for another a master's degree or something else can be a huge piece to look at as well, looking at the full compensation package.
Yeah, my advice would pretty much be the same. And to know that from a talent and recruitment perspective, people negotiate all the time. You're not going to, be the only one that's ever negotiated for this recruiter. It happens all the time. So you're certainly not the you're not the only one that's going to do it. So I think that sometimes helps me when I'm thinking about those situations, is that I won't be the first, I won't be the last, and that's a helpful perspective. I also think that as we move more towards pay transparency nationally, it's okay from my perspective, especially if it's something that you value, to ask for the breakdown of how things are determined. I know that when I accepted my offer, I knew why and how I was my pay was determined, and that was really helpful for me to accept the pay for what it is and be grateful for it for what it is. So I don't think that that's a bad thing to ask for, although it might be a little scary.
Yeah, and I will say for those of you that do want to learn more about negotiations and making decisions and things like that, we actually had a webinar that was the literal topic, was negotiating and making decisions. So we had that a few weeks back. If you weren't able to attend that, that is on our YouTube channel, and that also just has so much great advice for when that time comes. Okay, we have a couple more questions in the chat. So, somebody asked, where have you all made the most social connections, friends in Maine, especially if you are moving here from out of state with no family or previous friends? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, I've grown up in Maine, lived in Maine. But I think for me, one thing that I've done that I've met a lot of people who are moving to Maine, new to Maine, is I joined a book club. I joined a book club in Portland. We meet at a local bar every month and talk about the book, have a drink, and that has been a great way. And then I didn't realize how many people actually are coming to Maine, have dreamed of living in Maine their whole life, and are making it happen. So taking what you're interested in and then finding a local group for that. I mean, pickleball is so popular, and if that's something you're interested in, I've seen so many videos of how they have pop-ups in Portland, Southern Maine, but they do it in any location too, in Maine. So would recommend taking your interest and trying to find a group for that.
Yeah, I would totally agree. So recently, even though I'm from Maine, obviously always trying to build my connections and my network. But one thing that I recently did in the past year or so was take up golf. So definitely hard thing to take up, but there's so many women's clinics in Maine, and I'm actually taking women's lessons at Brunswick. So I've met a lot of amazing people that way, whether it's my age or someone that's 70. It's just amazing to like make these connections. And then I found out later that one of my golf coaches used to work with half of my LLB team. So obviously always just making those connections. But I totally agree with Maddie, just taking your interest and trying to find different things or activities that are going on in the area. And always just remember, obviously, like being new in general is scary, or just like being somewhere that you don't feel as comfortable or you don't know as many people can be really scary. But everyone in Maine is, for the most part, really, really nice and welcoming. So usually people will just open you with welcome you with open arms. So that's definitely something that I would enhance and just emphasize, that just do new places, explore them, whether it's by yourself or with a group of people that you might find, and just make new connections everywhere.
Yeah, I would agree. As I, enter post-college world, I think that something that's helped me is if I don't like it, I don't have to go back. And that's kind of like, it's not a huge commitment, which is something that I've really like held on to, is like, you can try it once and then forget it ever happened if that's what's best for you. So yeah, just figuring out like what are your big interests, and then finding local groups for those, I think is a great way to make friends and make connections in Maine.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still a student, obviously, but I'm from Maine too, and I am also in like a local book club like Maddie. So I think that's like such a great like opportunity, is joining some kind of club, or just finding a new hobby is like so fun. And there's so many things to do in Maine, especially outdoors. So there's a lot of opportunities there as well. So you kind of already answered this question that somebody asked as to like what some of the challenges you faced during your transition from intern to full time. I guess to make it a little more specific, like, did you find that there was any surprising differences or like a very specific challenge that you had to take on when you first started as full time, if that makes sense?
I can go. I just think that anything that when you're making that transition, it's all new and unexpected, because you've never had that experience before. But things that stood out to me, like I mentioned earlier, was just having answers to people because I was responsible for that thing. That was something that was really big for me. Also, just having the ability and I think delegation is something that I really struggled with. Is like asking people for anything, because as an intern, you're kind of like, oh, well, this is my work. It's kind of not on an island all by itself because it's very connected and important, but also like these are your set of projects. And so when you have work that's your own, being able to ask people for different things can be challenging, and um, learning when to exercise that and when to not is something I still struggle with. I mean, I'm only like 7 or 8 months in, so I don't really know yet.
Yeah, I would piggyback off of that by just saying that reaching out to people obviously can be a little bit scary, and you're new to the company, so you don't know everyone. You don't know if you're reaching out to the right person even. So I definitely struggle with that a little bit, and just like double checking everything and making sure that this might be the right person, and then feeling like bad if it wasn't the right person, but them being like, it's fine, like I'll just forward it to the next person. So definitely like understanding that transition. And then also one thing that was hard for me was that understanding that people want you to succeed. Like no one wants to see you fail. Everyone at the company wants to see you succeed in a great way and wants to see you develop there. So I think that's just something that like I had to let sink in my mind a lot, is that no one, first of all, no one's out to get you. And it's just like it's at a company, it's like such a great company culture. You will find that people want to reach out or will have you help them with things that might not be in your job description necessarily. And then vice versa, you'll get help from them that's something that might not be in their job description. So just like learning that everyone's there for each other. And yes, someone might be there for 20 years as a 10-year employee, but like they're still learning too. So also understanding that my opinions and like my my thoughts and my ideas are also valued. And even if it's something that might not be like the norm for the company or something that's like not ever thought about just because we can't do it, it's like just kind of bringing my perspective and like challenging that as well. So just remember that like as an intern, you bring a whole new perspective to the company. So that's really valued as well. And so just don't let like that bury into yourself.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I could add to that is I think with any new position, regardless if it's an internship to full time, is just I think a challenge for me is just understanding someone's leadership style or understanding someone's management style. And kind of as they both touched on is like checking in. Do you need to share with them every time you have something completed? How does that look like? And I think a lot of these things could probably be solved by communicating at the beginning, asking what your expectations are for checking in. But I often find that that's something is like, they haven't, I'm doing all this. Do I need to check with them? Being one of those things that I need to pause and be like, it's okay. They have trust. That's why I'm here. So.
Yeah, so we have a couple good follow-up questions, I guess, just like facing challenges. Somebody asked if did your team treat you differently? So once you went from internship to full-time, did you see that your team treated you differently at all, either positively or maybe negatively, hopefully not?
Yeah, so I still work with the same team that I was with in my internship, and I love my team. They are all amazing, like my big older sisters. But I definitely saw for them the transition of like asking me to do different tasks, like less one-offs and like, oh, could you like quickly look into this or like could you print this out or just like smaller things and just understanding like all like the amount of things that I'm doing for other areas of HR. And so that's something that I've seen is just like they're now seeing me, well, they have been, but they're seeing me more like as a employee and as an equal versus just like their intern. So sometimes that can be a little bit difficult because if you're on the same team, obviously you were an intern for 10 to 12 weeks and now you're a full-time employee. So like for them, it's a little bit different too. So just like kind of standing your ground, being like, oh, that might not be something that like pertains to my like job scope right now, or like I can most certainly like help you with this, but like I can't always do this for you. So just definitely like standing your ground with that. But I would say like in all, the team was really happy and celebrated that I was able to stay with them. And I don't think they ever want me to leave, which is hard for me too. So I'm really grateful for my team in itself, especially just seeing them a lot more now that we're in the office a lot more. So just building those relationships with my team.
Yeah, I think that I completely agree. There was some instances where I was like, okay, well, I have to do this part of my job before I can help with that. Um, I think that I love my team. I absolutely love my team. They're fantastic. They've been so helpful in answering my questions again and again, because when you're learning, you need to ask the same question twice sometimes. And um, I think that that's been really helpful for me. And they were I'm still called the intern sometimes, but they do it in a joking way as opposed to a, no, you need to do this for me kind of way. Um, so yeah, I think I've overwhelmingly positive reactions, and I feel like this transition was relatively seamless. So it's good.
Yeah, that's always really nice to hear, especially because I think that can be intimidating from going to just an intern to, oh, I'm full-time, I have a lot of responsibilities now. So we are coming to kind of the end here, so we have a couple more questions from our participants. This is a question that they're saying is more about ending college. Somebody asked, how many times did you change your mind or debate changing your mind about your career path during senior year and during graduating? Also, when did you finally make the decision that you did?
So I have a rather interesting story in that my degree is actually in mathematics. So I have a math degree, which is not at all HR. So I thought until about my junior year that I was going to be a teacher. Um, And I think that it was really important for me to realize that I didn't have to have a plan laid out, and that experiences like internships would be really helpful in figuring out what I want my career path to be. It's also important to realize that you can try a job and know that you don't necessarily like it and find something else. So whatever you're doing doesn't have to be your end all be all. And I think that's reassuring even now to know. So yeah, I think that my experience speaks to, I had no idea what I was doing. I really had no idea what I was doing when I graduated. I took an internship, still didn't really know what I was doing. So I promise there is an end to that I don't know what I'm doing type of feeling.
I think it's also nice to mention too that you can start your first full-time job, your entry-level job, and you can still decide that this is not what I want to do, and you can transition into a different career path as well. Might not be the 3 of ours experience, but that certainly happens. I'm sure we all see it happen even internally within our organizations. You can even change different directions or groups, departments within your company, or you can go in a completely different direction. So I want to share that plug too, that it's never too late to change your mind on what you're doing, but just gaining different experiences, I think help guides where you might want to go.
Yeah, so my path at this moment is pretty straight. I graduated in human resource management and I work in human resource management. I am very grateful that at LL Bean I can kind of ebb and flow with that, whether it's stay in human resources, go in a different department, go in a different area in HR, which I have been doing a little bit here and there with like our DEI team, communications team. So definitely just keep your options open. And I always say go with your gut, but that might not be the right choice for everyone. But I'm very much like a feeling type of person. So if you feel it's right, and like Maddie and Lauren both said, like you can always change depending on what you're feeling at that moment. Like nothing is concrete, especially where you're building your career. Everyone's career path looks really different. That's something that I've also learned. You can, whether it's like you've always known you wanted to work for this company and like how to get there, or you always know you want to do this job and like just finding different companies that might work well for this job, that job that you're really interested in. So really just keeping your options open, and remember, like you can change at any point, and like career paths go up and down, they go left and right. They are not straight or upwards all the time. Sometimes it might be important for you to be at a company more than the position itself. And once you're in that company, then you can kind of work up to that position that you were hoping for. So just kind of keeping all of your options open at any time.
So we have time for, I think, one more question. And I think this is going to be really just they're asking more for your advice. Somebody asked, if you are accepted to a new internship and your previous internship company has also offered you a part-time position, which one should you choose?
I think it is probably dependent on a lot of on what is going on. But I think even if you had a great experience with your current internship, again, it's only an internship, it's not a full-time position. I would probably maybe lean more towards trying out a new organization. But if it's a previous one versus your current, I think it's comparing which one did you enjoy better. It really comes down to what you may be looking for. And but if it's a completely new company, I would probably lean towards trying a new organization as well, just to that can even confirm that your last organization is the place you want to be, or maybe a new direction and you can learn a new path to go down.
Yeah, I would definitely err on the side of going with a new position possibly, but definitely keep that connection with your previous employer open and say, at this time I'm really looking to expand on like my knowledge of different companies and like trying to figure out what I want. But like, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I'll be sure to keep in touch like after the summer, after this internship. I'd be really interested in that opportunity later down the road. So definitely like don't just completely disregard that position or that opportunity, but just keep your opportunities open. And it might, like Maddie said, it might make your concrete decision more there and be like, oh, I didn't like this new internship. That's good to know. Now you know what you don't like, and then you can go back to your previous internship if that's still available for you.
I am a huge fan of a pros and cons list. I still do it when I'm making big decisions. And so that's always what I suggest is take some serious like time, allot it just for that, and analyze those two things, and then see which one you're leaning more towards and go with that feeling. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I'm totally a pro con list person as well, Lauren. Well, that is all the time that we have today. I just want to thank the three of you, Lauren, Maddie, and Mina. Thank you so much for your time today and for just coming on here and talking about your experiences and all the great advice you had for the interns. It was really insightful. I definitely will be taking all of your advice so as I go to the full time soon. So yeah, I just want to also mention that in the chat, John put our post-program survey link. So if you haven't already taken our post-program survey, please do. You can have a chance to win a $100 gift card. So, and it's really important for Main Career Catalyst to do that. So yeah, thank you all so much again. And yeah, I hope you all have a great like last few weeks of your internship as well. And good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Juliet, for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Take care.